Okay, folks, for the purposes of not having to make Travis repeat himself too many times, I'm gonna open all three, the Cortland County Development Corporation, the IDA, and the BDC for the purposes of being able to expedite Travis's explanation of the audit. So do I need to do minutes or anything, or just let him go ahead and then go back through, John, or how do we?
You can do it in any order you want. Are there minutes from the last meeting?
There is.
Yes, there are.
Yes.
You can let them go first and do those after, if you want to
Yeah.
remember, as long as you
Yeah.
remember.
Yep, I'll remind him.
You got it marked.
So, being that we've opened all three, for the sake of, the audit review, why don't we go ahead and let Travis start?
All right, I'll get started then. All right, well, hello, everyone. So I'm actually Ben Owens, partner with
sorry, Ben.
Travis, does work on all three engagements, was at the last meeting. We do look somewhat similar, so.
Okay, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, so I'll go through all three reports. I'll start with the CCDC and then we'll go through the IDA and the BDC reports. We did meet, it was last week, and did a more comprehensive review with the audit committees. So I'll kind of skip over some of the more granular details and kind of focus on the high level. CCDC is the smallest of the three reports. Going through it, we have a clean or unmodified opinion, which means we've done all the required audit steps, feel comfortable in the numbers and the related disclosures. There's not an awful lot of activity. If you remember a couple of years ago, we had the hospital bond with a supplemental schedule with more activity that kind of roll off when those went away. There is approximately $150,000 of cash that is sitting there, waiting for the next project to come along. There are a couple new accounting standards pronouncements that impact the CCDC, BDC, and the IDA. CCDC doesn't have any receivables, so it's really no impact for that, but the BDC does have some receivables, so that one was a little more impactful. There's a new accounting pronouncement that's referred to as CECL. It has to do with expected credit losses. That's the FASB pronouncement, so that's applicable to the nonprofit entities. What that does, it changes the way that we value the allowance. For instance, in banking, we're very familiar with that. There's obviously a lot more legwork that needs to be done there. The BDC does have some loans receivable and accounts receivable, so it was applicable, and we did work with Karen to understand how she came up with the allowance amount. There is currently a $25,000 allowance in the BDC that's disclosed in the footnotes. We reviewed her estimates for that, and we feel comfortable with it. But we did have to change the wording in that report to conform to that new standard, along with our work papers and documentation thereof. So I'll take a look at the BDC report now. That one, as I mentioned, accounting standards update 2016-13, which deals with credit losses, was new for that. The financials themselves, I hope everyone had a chance to take a look at the report. That is also an unmodified or clean opinion, just like the smaller CCDC. In the communication letter, we talked about the new accounting standards as well as any other estimates that are involved there. The financials themselves, this year, the BDC ended the year with about $1.2 million in net assets, which was about a $43,000 increase over last year's balance. So positive operations for the 23 year, and about, as I mentioned, 1.2 million in available net assets. Now, a large portion of that, nearly 800,000, is set aside for revolving loan fund. And we did change the terminology this year. So in previous years, we had treated that as with donor restrictions, but Karen was able to provide some support this year that really showed that all the donor restrictions have really went away from those amounts. It's kind of recurring program income at this point. So we changed that to reflect board designated, that the board has set that aside to be used for revolving loan fund until at which point it could be undesignated and used for other things. And we did include a reclassification comment in there that talks about that. And we included it in the board designated net asset footnote for the disclosures of those balances. So that was one change in the current year. But all in all, a pretty healthy financial statement. And as I mentioned, in excess of revenues over expenses in the current year. Any questions on the BDC report or CCDC before doing the IDA? You're good. That's important. Very important.
The audit committee, as chairman outlined, and was given a visual review of.
Yes.
So much more detailed.
Yeah. All right, well, the last one is the IDA itself. So that one, unlike the other two, is an actual governmental entity. So it's slightly different lens that we look at when we're auditing that one. The financial statements look a little bit different. There's a management discussion and analysis that precedes the financial statements. It's more of a narrative form that talks about the changes from year to year. There was a new accounting pronouncement specific to governmental entities in the current year too. It's GASB 96. Which deals with subscription-based technology arrangements. So that one kind of piggybacks off the lease standard that came out last year. It was really not that applicable though, because there's not really that many subscriptions at the IDA, but we put it in there because it is a new pronouncement. There was about $38,000 excess of net income in the IDA, which had revenue over expenses in the current year there too, so that's a positive. And the end of the year with about $1.5 million in fund balance for resources available. The management discussion analysis, I won't go through that, but that is probably one of the most important parts of that report to read through and understand. Page 4C goes over the future factors. So that's really what's on the horizon. That's probably one of the most important parts of the whole report that talks about the projects that are coming down the pipe for the IDA. And then lastly, the supplemental schedule in the back is really important too. That goes over all the different pilot arrangements and all the different tax abatements. We did change the look of that a little bit this year. We split the jobs column apart into two separate columns to make it a little bit more easy to read and to understand from years prior. And we are rendering unmodified opinion both on that supplemental schedule and the financial statements themselves. So we feel comfortable in the amounts and the related disclosures there. All in all, won't go into any more detail unless someone wants to, but I thought the audit went really well again this year. We had just over 200 hours invested in the audit between the three entities. We had a team on site for a couple of days here, and so it would be late January to conduct the audit. And I thought it was a pretty positive audit. Thanks really to Eric and Karen. I know we asked them to pull an awful lot of support. More. But they're always really good at pulling everything that we need. So thank you as well. All right, any questions?
Questions for Ben, anybody? I'm looking at our new CPA on the board here. so-
Yes, I think we've spoken before, so.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions in looking at the statement?
No, I didn't. I thought everything looked fine from when we went over them.
Excellent, all right. Well, if anyone does have questions, I'm always available throughout the year. if anything comes up.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Ben.
All right, thank you.
You gonna stay in CCDC, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Open the regular meeting of the Cortland Development Corporation. And I will make a motion to approve the minutes for our last meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any additions, deletions to the minutes? Questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, minutes carried. I guess at this point, I would ask Deb to address the audit. And make a motion one way.
I make a motion to approve the audit for 2023 for CCDC.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I would just add, I assume that the audit committee met and is recommending to the full board that this be adopted as well. Is
Yes,
that fair to say?
yes, absolutely. I knew there was more work. So yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
All of what he says.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor of approving the audit, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. And we have some financials in that.
We also have to approve officers, signatories and committees for the CCDC.
Yeah.
We changed membership for
Oh, that's
Gov, and the CCDC did not meet in February. You have to do it for all three agencies. CCDC did not meet in February, we're meeting in March, so this is the first meeting since December that we have. Right,
Okay.
so unfortunately, we're doing it over again.
We're just getting good at it.
So,
But to your point, Mr. Chairman, in the future, and we've discussed this about not doing our organizational meetings in December in case there's changes in January, so that we don't have to
Yeah,
do.
holding off
redo
to probably like February or depending January on when the legislative calendar hits.
Yeah, and depending how quickly the legislature gets around to
Yes.
appointing new
Right.
members of the IDA, so.
So we don't have to go through this whole process of.
Yes.
Once and then appoint
Wow.
you guys.
Yeah. All right, so, the slate of officers are, myself as chairman, Stephen Compagni as vice chair, Deb Hayden as treasurer, Clinton Brooks as secretary. Signatories are myself, Deb Hayden, Brendan, and Karen. What else did we need?
Standing committees,
What's that?
the standing committees as well.
Yeah, committees.
Audit is Ms. Hayden, Mr. Brooks, Ms. Burke, finance is Ms. Hayden, Ms. Ames, Mr. Compagni, governance is Mr. McMahon, Mr. Richards, and Ms. Burke.
It's just what I was gonna say. Okay. What else do we need besides committees?
You also need to review the acquisition, disposition of real and personal property reports, the investment report and procurement report.
All of which are in your board books. So that's my motion to approve all those. Is there a second? Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Additions or deletions to that list of people? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. I think that's it. for-
That's fine. So we can close the CCDC.
Okay. With that, because we're gonna go into executive session on the IDA, I'm gonna hold that till the end. We'll do the BDC. Need a motion to adjourn the CCDC. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We're adjourned and I'll now open the BDC. And minutes, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion, additions, or deletions to the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes carried. Thank you. Okay. We can have to keep Eric happy.
Well, it's also Karen too,
Yes.
because I'll catch it when she gets back and you don't, so.
All right, we need to appoint officers and committees.
No, we're all set
We're
with
all
that.
set for this
We're just
one.
gonna do the recommendation of the audit and then review and approve the procurement report for policy.
Okay, all right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the audit report for BDC as recommended by the audit committee
For twenty
for
twenty.
2023.
Is there anything else you need in that?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the audit? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now we have to approve. What did you say?
Procurement report.
Procurement. And
The twenty twenty-three BDC procurement reports, on page 35. Or starts on page 3.
And for the benefit of new board members, again, these are ABO requirements. We have to submit that we've gone over this stuff with you folks, and Karen can touch those bases.
All
in the
contracts that we have,
Public accounts.
with different firms, that are ongoing, that have been open to, RFPs, so. Just review of what we have out there and what we continue working with the contractual basis.
Okay.
That's my cue.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'll make a motion to approve the procurement report for the BDC.
Second, though.
And the motion is seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Procurement report is accepted. Thank you. We're One monthly into the financials. You wanna do?
Yeah, and I reviewed these in very great detail with Karen before she took some time off, and there's nothing remarkable to report from this past month. No big changes, no big turnovers or anything, so, there's no real, big update in the BDC financials for this month. Not the great report that Karen usually gives for you, but
That's all right, didn't expect it.
yeah. Into the revolving loan fund, the only thing is, there's nothing, we're getting some of the loans are getting close to maturing. We don't have a long list of them, of course, and, we've been talking internally a little bit about this. And in the audit report, we also is reporting that, our fund balance is starting to get a little bit high. So that we need to start thinking about some sort of action with it. And much like what Ben was discussing, since those funds have come and gone through any sort of requirements that were made on the initial funds that we received for that revolving loan fund, I would like to open it up to discussion to possibly look at, see if we can make some of those loan funds into grant funds. We have a decent history of this in the past as we've been going through the ARPA funding through the county. We have 3 different grant funds available, small grant funds available to small businesses through the downtown area as well as the Cortland County as a whole. Eric, I don't know if you want to give an update on some of that real
Sure.
quick.
As
you've been working with it.
Yeah, sure, and obviously Karen's, really had the financials, but we've been spending some time with them lately. We received initially, for those of you who weren't with us, $600,000 in American Plan Rescue dollars from Cortland County as part of their the fund that they received from the federal government. We were able to expense all of those funds. I have 2 invoices that will be paid when Karen returns, and close out that program, so that is officially ended. We were able to leverage just under 1.2 million in spending as a result of that $600,000 investment by Cortland County. And again, those dollars, as Brendan mentioned, went to 3 specific programs: facade improvements, small business expansion, and what we call the downtown business expansion, which was geared toward brand new startups in downtown business districts. The bulk of the dollars went to the small business expansion, which was really we kind of structured that very similar to the requirements for the micro enterprise program that the city and the county have utilized in the past. And so it was equipment, it was improvements geared toward making the business more resilient and in turn possibly opening up new revenue streams to counter whatever the next pandemic or economic downturn may be. So again, those programs were very successful. All the applicants, to my knowledge, were small businesses that weren't able to take advantage of other federally funded COVID programs and weren't able to access some of those resources that were floating around during COVID. So we really touched a lot of businesses, I think, that otherwise wouldn't have been eligible, whether it was for MAP or a lot of these other programs. So to Brendan's point, if we have an opportunity to recapitalize that program and possibly find some other willing partners, I think it would certainly be in the community's best interest to do so.
And also,
John, I'd like to hear, can we legally do this?
I think the BDC, this is the BDC.
Yes.
So the answer is yes. The BDC may give grants, the IDA cannot,
Right.
but the BDC could.
Okay.
Did anybody ask me this before? I think it's come up.
I think we did ask.
Okay, I think so.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
And just to open it for discussion, we don't have to take any action or make anything for right now. If we decided that and go forward, it'd be like the next month or 2 that we make a formal arrangement or some sort of resolution to go forward, but just wanted to throw it out there as an idea to do with some of those access funds in our revolving loan fund.
Additionally, I do expect that we will be receiving a revolving fund application in the very near future. So I will get that to Karen, and most likely the revolving loan committee will need to convene to take a look at that if it passes the initial application muster.
Do you guys have a feel for what kind of money you might be looking at to reinvest into an ARPA-like thing?
I would have to discuss with Karen what our comfort levels on the balance of the revolving loan
Right.
fund and see what it is, but initial thought would be somewhere probably 100 to 200,000-ish, right around that
Yeah.
range.
But it'd still leave us plenty.
Yes.
It would also be nice if we could, again, secure a possible partner match,
Yes.
whether city or county
Yeah.
as part of that.
And if we're in our good graces putting up this amount of money, it'd be a good thought that somebody else might be willing to match it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a good,
Mhm.
it's a good idea. Yeah.
Have we ever done that before, turned these types of funds into a grant program?
I do not believe so.
No, we
But others,
haven't, Amy, but the fund continues to grow, so we
Right.
need to do something.
And like what Ben was saying, the funds that we had there, they did have requirements years ago on it when the funds were originally received. But those funds have been exchanged so many times at this point that there's no connection between those requirements initially and what we can do with them at this point.
I see. Do other BDCs around the state operate grant programs?
Yes.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some IDAs do too, but they're not supposed to. They do.
Yeah, I mean, we could apply for grants and try to basically incentivize this with state dollars. Or again, we could, match this and try to leverage other grants. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities out there. But I think that there's some conversations locally that could be had for some resources that may not be committed. So I'd like to, I think it would be in our interest to pursue that angle.
Yeah, anything to do to help local business, I'm in favor.
Would you all bring like proposals of here would be the categories that we would open grants in?
Yes.
Like, will that be our next conversation?
And I think it'll be, the starting point is the grants that we already had created through the ARPA funding, because I think that's a
Okay.
good
So those-
basis.
Those might be the
Um,
overarching categories.
Yeah, but if we need to make minor tweaks and based on that, then we could do it from there.
One,
But it's our funds, so we could definitely create.
so if you have ideas, certainly you wanna throw some suggestions, I'm happy to draft up, or if you're aware of other programs, or we could reduce the dollar thresholds. Basically, our max grants were about $10,000. We also did not fund not-for-profits. So if that's something that the board wants to get in, some thoughts there, you wanna open up some eligibility for not-for-profit organizations, that's an area that we stayed away from intentionally last time because of access to other resources.
Okay, you wanna hold off on your report till the very.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
The only other thing BDC related that I'll present to, I'll defer to Eric on this a little bit too. We are seeing some issues with our HVAC system in the back of the building. And it's how old now? It's not terribly old.
It's not, I wanna say that system was installed in 2016 to 2017.
And it's a heat pump system, that was installed, not too long ago. Unfortunately, how it was installed, it's going through the elevator shaft, so a lot of the certified HVAC people in our area are unable to even open that chamber because they're not licensed to do that. Eric's done some background homework and we've dropped about $13,000.
We haven't, the downtown partnership has invested over $13,000 in repairs since 2022 in that system.
Yeah.
And,
Right now, we have a significant leak that they cannot find and locate, and it's quite cold back there. And, we wanna open it up in one, just throw you guys out there, what you guys thinking on either replacing the whole system or continuing to going down the road of repair. Cause once again, the partnership's paid out enough for a whole new replacement system based on repairs. When we have a feeling that we'll continually have to repair the system as we go forward.
I guess the question might be, can we replace this system and eliminate this elevator shaft thing?
well, that's in talking with, K and B and just kind of strategizing potential fixes going forward. That's exactly what we would do, is we would just run new line sets, abandon in place what's there, run a new line set on the outside of the elevator shaft as discreetly as possible, new conduit, and then install a brand new, it's a 4-head system. There is a head in the basement for the elevator control room. And it's just, again, this is not our money, but it's our money, type of situation. And it it blows me away how much we've spent. I've utilized the services of two different HVAC companies, Sure Temp out of Binghamton, now KMB locally, both specialize in heat pump systems, so they're not operating out of their depth. And I think a good deal of the problem is just that when the system was installed, it was not necessarily properly maintained, there wasn't follow-up, there was, if anybody knows the story of this building, it kind of things happened and then it just sort of went dark and there really hasn't been a good year toward maintenance, until such time as I've arrived and kind of tackled some of these things as you endeavor possible ownership of this facility, so. The partnership will be meeting next week, I will be updating them and say, okay, folks, how do you want to go forward? Knowing that they have limited resources and will likely be looking to us as the tenants.
Program.
So I think that would be involved if we end up in discussions of purchasing the building, which is the way I think we should go. I think comes a point where you gotta cut bait and talk about putting a new system in that's gonna eliminate this elevator shaft thing. Yeah, this is a discussion we need to get on.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a pay me now, pay me later type situation. Either we're gonna pay for it at such time as we assume ownership, or do we invest in this asset now, knowing that it's.
Well, I think there needs to be an understanding.
Well, absolutely.
We're gonna put this in,
Yeah,
and
no,
that's
I
gotta.
And what damage is
impact
going to occur
the
in
price of
the
the
interim
building
time,
or
Yeah.
something like that.
if we don't address it now.
Well, there's currently heat on the first floor and the third floor. The control board is burnt out for this floor. And again, this heating system just is restricted to the elevator tower itself. It is heating and cooling. It was designed and set up exclusively for that. So obviously you can feel it's warm in here. The rest of the building and our subtenants are not negatively affected at this point. But again, I've been chasing repairs in the system pretty much since the day I got here, and I, in my opinion, non-professional opinion, it's reaching the end of its life, or it's certainly the price tag has hit the end of its life.
Yeah. Whenever we move forward with look at it. So,
Yeah, we'll look at options and we'll bring it back to everybody. to look at.
sounds good. Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn the BDC. I need a second. Thank you. And we'll open the IDA. And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion, additions or deletions to the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, minutes carried. Okay. Deb.
One more time.
Get used to it.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to approve the audit report from the audit committee for the BDC for the year ended. IDA, damn it. Get on for 2023.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? Clint? Made and seconded. Any discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Do you need that list of done again? Or no?
Just a procurement report for
Okay.
this agency. Yeah, we took care, because we met, the officers, we cleaned all that up last month. That was just for CCDC.
All right.
So we only have two vendors for IDA?
Yeah.
Correct. Yep, we have the CNS, which is doing some environmental cleanup and looking at the APAC site. And then in Sarah doing the audit.
So I'll make a motion to approve the procurement report for the IDA. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Page 38, the NYSW pilot report, that's really just informational. I sent out the checks to all the various taxing entities. Obviously, I don't think it would come as a surprise to any board members that the payments were down in 2023 based on the freight traffic. Apparently they lost a fairly sizable customer. I'm not sure who that was, but somebody stopped shipping by rail.
payments
So-
cut in half.
Yeah, that obviously affected our rail traffic. And again, this
Well, it
is,
certainly wasn't food coke.
No.
I remember sitting in front of those railroad gates for an hour.
so for the benefit of new board members, the IDA does have an agreement, John, please jump on me if I'm wrong, with NYS&W. When the number of cars, freight cars, rail cars trips a certain threshold, I'm struggling to remember what that is, it trips a pilot payment.
$1,000.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't have-
5 was popping in my head, and maybe
Yeah.
Close enough.
somewhere.
So-
It is written down somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a written guide. So, you'll see by this threshold that those payments started in 16 or this, chart. And these are all the various jurisdictions, taxing jurisdictions that touch the railroad and, in turn receive a portion of the pilot payment.
And theoretically, this will be the last year. Should we extend it one more year?
Theoretically.
For 2023.
Right, but that means I think there should be one more set of payments. no?
Right, they'll pay in
For
December.
pay one more.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
They'll send us a estimate in December and then we'll expense them in 2025.
Right, and then that should be it, I think.
Okay.
For financial reports, much the same as the BDC, not much to report on. The only thing I'll call your attention to is that we did close on iSpice, project, so we received the project fee, and that's reflected in the current month revenue.
Nice.
Yeah. Good gosh. There was lots of back and forth.
Oh, my God, yes.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
For director report, John and I were together at the EDC conference back in February. Talked a lot about the legislative session update that I was excited about, but it was not nearly as productive as I was hoping for. But here's hoping for next time around. There was a couple really good panels that I sat with. Site readiness panel was really good, and they reflected once again the need for every IDA to have a good inventory of what sites are available across the county, what you can market, what barriers to redevelopment that they might have. Also, there was a really good panel on the IDA housing best practices that John and I both attended. And we left that meeting with the general thought that IDAs could and should be actively involved in housing projects. Based on the input we got back from a lot of the questionnaires I sent out from each one of you board members, I think that's something that you guys are interested in us getting engaged in. We're actively collecting information from across the state on what IDAs are doing in different areas, in regards to housing. So over the next couple months, we'll report back to you with more information. The general idea is that, housing is a commercial activity, and that allows IDAs to participate in housing projects because it's a commercial activity and we are allowed to participate in commercial activities. As long as the board says that there is a need in the area and is willing to acknowledge that need. I don't know if we need to make a resolution or put anything in actual writing to state that, but I mean, we can decide.
Right, I guess part of the goal might be to revise the UTEP.
Yes.
Well, one of the things I know you're.
And that's what
working on,
we're looking at and we're trying to
but
revise.
if you had a residential project before you right now, like Housing Visions.
Yeah.
Crown Construct.
Crown Homes.
Crown Homes.
Yeah. You can approve it, you just have to make that finding in your approval.
Yeah. So that's good news, and we'll be reporting back more going over the next couple months. In ESD update was good, there's more FAST funding in the New York State budget. FAST is, I don't know the whole acronym, it's focused area, something, site readiness, something, the acronym's crazy, but, it's money that is grant money that the state is making available specifically for IDAs to do site prep on sites that they have within their counties that they do business on. So once again, it falls in line. If we know what sites are out there and what barriers to development that they have, we can apply for funding and start getting those sites as shovel ready as possible. So it goes back to that other point. Also had a couple really good meetings with developers that I knew from Broome County that are interested in Cortland County. So I'll be pulling them in, bring them into town to discuss and go at what we have available and what we might be able to work with and go forward with. We had a good meeting here with CNY, ESD, and the Village of Marathon to review their application for New York Forward. And all in all, the meeting went great. They said the application looked really good. Few little refinements need to be made, but all in all, they said that Marathon is in good shape for this year's round of DRI New York Forward applications. So we're gonna continue supporting that to see it through to the end here. We also discussed about having a ESD information session here in Cortland County to discuss all the programs that they have coming up. That's gonna be coming up in May. We're gonna host it. We're gonna invite everybody here, of course, local business people, developers, as well as the local elected officials to sit in to see what programs might be good for their business or project. We're also in talks to see if we can have the REDC summer retreat here in Cortland County. All the REDC members from Central New York get together in the summertime to discuss how everything is going, new projects, all that type of thing. They're looking for a place to host, so I offered up Cortland County, so they're looking at it to see if that might be a good place to go. I attended the first CNY Regional Planning Board meeting of my tenure here. Which is David Botar's group that he has that, and they do an excellent job with the different programs that they have. I got a few good ideas for funding streams that they have open and have available, specifically doing with brownfields mostly. They have a lot of good grant programs and availability to get funding from them to look at different sites and get brownfield readaction and reuse policies put forward. We just recently participated in the Gutchess Market feasibility study. So they're looking to do more expansion and what that might look like out there. So, we participated, so it was a really good session, I think.
We had advocated, the agency advocated for them to receive a grant to update their strategic plan and, their market focus, so that going forward, as they look at what are the next steps for the Gutchess sports lumber facility, that they're making, appropriate investments, and also gives them footing for pursuing funding, either with other grants or county and local partners.
I have been participating with the county's strategic planning sessions that's going forward. Call attention and have flyers for everybody. They're gonna have 5 public meetings coming up over the next month. Encourage any and everybody to spread the word, to get public interaction with it. And what they're trying to get is what the public sees for the future of the county and what they would like to see in the municipalities. It's all over the county, so pick one if you can and try to attend. Grab one of these before you head out. I'm going to be doing a presentation on the economic information of Cortland County at the Cortland Counts Community Forum later this week. That's headed by Seven Valleys, so that should be a good program to get the word out there. And then finally, we are having the Ag Celebration dinner next week on Tuesday. Looking forward to that, so it should be a pretty good time.
If anybody hasn't signed up and wants to attend, I can still get you in.
And that's why we have this missing on the wall. We had to take the award out to get it redone, and we found out there was a hole behind the award.
That's why the award. Is there a safe in there? No, there was a thermostat once. Thermostat, so. That's good. Yeah. I had a gentleman come in and patch that last week.
So it'll probably be repainted soon enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have a conflict, I won't make it for dinner. I usually go, I like that dinner. Can't make it.
That'll be at Tenelli's, March the 19th, 6 p.m. At the hour, I believe, and then dinner to follow at 7.
Great dinner.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, just check in with me.
I have one question, Brendan. Where are we at with the environmental look at the Apex site? Any progress there?
EPA is significantly backlogged, and that's what they're telling us.
Right, yeah.
Yes, they're borrowing staff from other departments within the federal government to try to get through them. And they just told us that we sincerely apologize if this is hurting any future development and future issues going forward. So we're still waiting on that, but however, that's one of the, like, I mentioned the regional planning board. What I wanna do from that site, and everybody agrees, the mayor, everybody, that we need to do a site reuse plan on it to see specifically what the community wants to go there and what would fit the best. The regional planning board has funds and they can do some of that reuse planning for us. So I'm trying to see if that we can secure some funding and go that route to try to get that done. We don't necessarily need that phase two to be completely approved before we start that process. However, I was also trying to wait to hear back on the other grant funding through the EPA to do that site reuse planning. And just talking internally, I don't really feel like waiting around for them, so, we're looking at other avenues to try to look at it.
Started pulling
Zoned industrial.
Yeah.
It is, yes, yeah.
And that's part of the conversation, is that gonna still make
Zoning
sense going
needs-
forward? Is the city gonna want to see, you know, is the neighborhood gonna wanna see something? I mean,
Mhm.
we've discussed it, and we have to touch those bases
Yeah.
before we make any
Sure.
sort of decisions on future development of that site, so we can say, we've engaged the community. This is what the highest and best use is. I mean, we all have our opinion, but we don't have anything to really base it on.
We don't wanna say that we're gonna do this and then find out the whole public just doesn't want that there, so we
Yeah.
wanna engage them and get them involved.
At the same time, I would hate to lose the opportunity for something industrial.
Yeah.
Feed into the Micron giant or
Yep.
something like that down the road.
Mhm.
Cause trying to get new ground zoned that way is like pulling teeth, you know,
Mhm.
so. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm gonna make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the value of real estate, so. I guess.
The potential sale or disposition of real property.
I don't know, as soon as they
Yeah,
turn off the
that's it.
cameras, I wasn't sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Murray.
Because publicity might affect it.
Negative.
The value.
Yes.
For which board member?
This is the idea.
You stay. We always ask the BDC to stay.
We do.
For these, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pause the recording.
We need a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion to have the appraisal for the Contenno property updated. Is there a second? Second. Motion made second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right.
Before we adjourn, and everybody scatters, I would like to say, just try to keep everybody here. John's gonna do a little bit of a training session for everybody about what IDA stuff and things like that, so don't just scatter right away.
Get something to eat. Well,
Yes, grab something to eat, sit down, and John is gonna take over the show for a little bit, so.
Sure. Did they not know about this?
Talk to Mike about it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
For both boards?
Yes,
If you can.
if you can, stay as long as possible.
And before you do that, if you can't stay, to that point in compliance, I do have the acknowledgement of fiduciary duty document that everyone needs to sign, BDC and IDA members. So I'll hand those out to the folks that are here. If you could return those to me, I would appreciate it.
I will say that the vast majority of what I talk about is for the IDA. The BDC is welcome to stay and we'll touch on some issues, but it is primarily an IDA focused discussion.
Mike, I think they just come up good for adjourn.
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? You can. IDA.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We are adjourned.